Good afternoon, everybody. Parshat Mishpatim. Everyone knows the opening lines of Parshat Mishpatim. It starts off with something which is grammatically not so accurate, because it says "Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lefnehem," and these are the Mishpatim, the laws that you have to present before them. And everyone knows the well-known Rashi quoting from Chazal. You never start off the sentence with the word "and." So Rashi makes the point that everything that is written in Parshat Mishpatim is to be connected what is written in the Parsha before Yitro. In Parshat Yitro, about the Aseret HaDibrot, that lofty revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the grandeur of the Aseret HaDibrot. And then comes afterwards Parshat Mishpatim, which speaks about the civil laws, about damages, about sometimes the nitty-gritty of interpersonal relationships and damages, etc., etc. And by saying Eila Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem, the Torah is trying to unite these two sets of laws. The laws of Shabbat came from Sinai, and the laws of an ox goring another ox comes from Sinai. The laws of belief in Hashem is from Sinai. Kabedit avicha beit amicha comes from Sinai, and also what is written in Parshat Mishpatim, the laws of Shemitah, the laws of slavery. All these are like one whole, and they all come from Sinai. What I wanted to do is to show you that actually this is reflected. It's amazing. It's reflected in the very structure of the beit hamikdash. If you look at your screens, you'll be able to see that there's a picture of the beit hamikdash, and from the northern side, you can see over there that there is there's a red mark. That red mark, I hope you can see that clearly on the screen, is that entry of a building where the Lishkat HaGazit was. Lishkat HaGazit was the chamber of hewn stones in which the Sanhedrin, the great Sanhedrin of 71 Zkanim, 71 elders, that's where they sat. Can you imagine that? The Supreme Court of Israel, not the Supreme Court of today, the Supreme Court of Israel, 71 of the greatest sages, they sat right over there in the Beit HaMikdash. And you can see in the middle of the structure, you can see in blue is the altar. And into Lishkat HaGazit, you had two entrances. The entrance where there was the red, which is two, which was an entrance that came from the non-consecrated part. And then you had an entrance that came from the courtyard of the Ezrat Yisrael, or the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, which was near the altar. That's in your screen as entrance number one. So that entrance was from the holy. In other words, in the structure of Lishkat HaGazit, you had one section which was consecrated, one section which was not consecrated, and these were the two entrances in Lishkat HaGazit. So here you have a structure. It's amazing that the Lishkat HaGazit, where the Sanhedrin was, that was the living embodiment. It wasn't something theoretical. The living embodiment, the living expression of the opening line of Parshat Mishpatim, Ve'elia Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. The Sanhedrin, where did they sit? They sat in the middle of the Beit HaMikdash. They could see all the miracles that happened in the Beit HaMikdash as they are recorded in the 5th period of Pirkei Avot, amongst other sources. So whenever they sat down to deliberate, it was like they were standing at Sinai. They were part of the miracles. And then not only that, it didn't only work in that direction, but the people of the religious people who came now to, or Am Yisrael, who came now to perform a religious duty of korbanot, they also had to be affected by the sight of the Sanhedrin were dealt, which not only religious matters in inverted commas, but also like monetary and civil law as well. And now what I wanted to add on was just one last point, and that is it's also amazing. It like struck me. This is just like a novel idea of mine. I don't know how true it is, but I still wanted to share with you. If you look at the picture, you'll see that to the left of the Lishkat Gazit, there's another courtyard. That's the courtyard of Lishkat, and the courtyard is Rat Nashim, where the woman was, and that courtyard is made up of, on either edge of the courtyard, they made up of 4 chambers, and the chamber which is next to Lishkat Gazit is the chamber of the Metzoraim, which means that anyone who, again, we translated leper, we know it's not leprosy in that way, but a person who was affected by tzara'at, and he was basically isolated from the Jewish people, wasn't allowed to come into a city even, let alone into the beit hamikdash, but when he had his leprosy, in inverted commas, had left him, and he had to go through a whole lot of rites, he had to go to the mikveh, to shave off his hair, and finally his accessibility and his coming back into society and to the beit hamikdash, he had to bring certain korbanot, he had to bring certain offerings, and he came to the Lishkat HaMetzoraim where the final rite of his purity took place. So to me, I don't know, that's like amazing. The Lishkat HaGazit was in between, well, on the one hand, it was facing the Mizbeach, it was on the other side, on the other hand, it was bordering the Lishkat Metzoraim. This is a picture according to how the Rambam understood the structure of the Beit HaMikdash. So that what it's telling you is all these parts come together. The Dayanim, when they sat down to deliberate in the Sanhedrin, they had to be people who were inspired, people who when they sat down to deliver judgment, they had to see the miracles. There was no politically correct. They had to be in the Beit HaMikdash and witness all these miracles. On the other hand, they boarded the people who were lepers. They boarded in the Mikdash. They were next to the chambers where lepers, people who were outcasts, people who were Bala Beira, who had been completely dissociated from Am Yisrael, they also were next to them. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says that in the Mashiach is to be found in the whole places of Rome, and what is he doing? He is helping bandage up the wounds of the lepers. So that's what the Sanhedrin had to do. They had to be, on the one hand, not in an ivory tower, not only being enthralled and inspired by every single day being in the Beit HaMikdash, but being very, very aware that only next door was a chamber of people who were detached until now, the Metzoraim. This is the wonderful message that in the structure of the Beit HaMikdash, you saw what the Dayanim, the real heads of the Sanhedrin, were people who united and harmonized all the great principles of Jewish law. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Kol Tov.